One of Donald Trump's first acts upon being sworn in as president for a second term was to appoint a new U.S. attorney in Washington, D.C. His name is Ed Martin. It quickly became clear what made Ed Martin so appealing to Trump for this term. Ed Martin was at the U.S. Capitol on January 6th. He said it was great, said it was like Mardi Gras. He later served as a defense lawyer for several Trump supporters who were charged with attacking police officers during the attack on the Capitol that day. Once Trump named him U.S. attorney in Washington, the top federal prosecutor in Washington, D.C., Mr. Martin immediately set about demoting and firing federal prosecutors who had worked on January 6th cases. He also, honestly, tried to indict Chuck Schumer, the top Democrat in the Senate, an effort so outlandish he apparently couldn't even get Trump Justice Department officials to sign off on it. Ed Martin also tried to get one top prosecutor in his office to order a bank to freeze billions of dollars that had been dispersed by the Biden administration in a federal grant. That prosecutor resigned rather than follow that order from Ed Martin. She resigned because she said there was no crime, there was no legal justification for opening a criminal investigation and thereby freezing those funds. She said he was essentially telling her to fake a criminal investigation, and she wouldn't do it. Ed Martin, after she resigned, then personally signed and submitted a seizure warrant for the funds in that bank account because he couldn't find anybody else willing to sign it. The judge he submitted that warrant to rejected it because, again, no evidence of any crime. This week, Congressman Jamie Raskin, Democrat of Maryland, asked the Justice Department's Inspector General to open an inquiry into the behavior of Mr. Martin as U.S. attorney in Washington, D.C. Raskin's letter outlined all the things Martin has done that he says could potentially deserve investigation by the Inspector General. The list runs to 9 pages, single-spaced, in small type. Ed Martin hasn't even been running that office for 2 months. Democrats in the Senate have also asked for an investigation of Ed Martin from the D.C. bar. And in a development that's surely totally unrelated, I should mention that Ed Martin and Trump's Attorney General Pam Bondi are reportedly now moving to try to take control of the D.C. bar themselves. They're doing it very stealthily by having Ed Martin's deputy and Pam Bondi's brother run for leadership roles to take over the D.C. bar. Good luck with that. I'm sure nobody will notice. Is it the Bondi as in Bondi? Yeah, same last name. You might think that developments like this might create a real sense of turmoil, hunkering down maybe, or at least a lot of renewed hard work at the Justice Department. Well, let's look at what Attorney General Pam Bondi has been up to in the midst of this mess. You might recall that last week, Trump signed an executive order to punish a particular law firm because that law firm has done work for Democrats. Among other things, Trump's executive order would block anyone from that law firm from entering federal courthouses, which might make it difficult to be a lawyer in Washington, D.C. I'm just saying. The law firm naturally sued, and because the case was so important to Trump, and potentially because it was difficult to find any career prosecutors who really wanted to defend it, Attorney General Pam Bondi sent her own chief of staff, the Attorney General's chief of staff, to argue the case himself personally in federal court. Bring it in like the biggest guns they got. And her chief of staff just got blown out of court by the judge. The Trump administration lost that with an exclamation point. The judge said Trump's order sent a chill down her spine. She said the whole legal profession was, quote, watching in horror what Trump was trying to do and what the Attorney General's chief of staff was trying and very much failing to defend in court. Pam Bondi and Trump's Justice Department are also apparently trying to launch an investigation into the otherwise totally normal process of funding shelters for migrants in New York City. I say they are trying to launch an investigation there because they seem to be having trouble with some of the fundamentals, like spelling. At least one of the subpoenas they sent out has folks in New York scratching their heads because it went to something called the Hotel Chandler. Hotel Chandler does not host immigrants at all. It's not clear what's going on there with the Hotel Chandler, but a CBS News report does note that, quote, a source familiar with the shelter system pointed out that another hotel with a similar name, the Candler, is in fact a hotel where they house migrants. Asked about the situation with the Chandler and the Candler, a spokesman for the Department of Justice said, quote, "We will decline to comment on an ongoing investigation." Also, Pam, do you... but don't worry about it. When it comes to the really important stuff, Pam Bondi is on it. This went out from her office this week. All caps. Memorandum for all department employees from the Attorney General. Subject, ending procurement of paper straws. Quote, in accordance with President Trump's direction. The Department of Justice, she's talking about the U.S. Department of Justice, shall take appropriate action to eliminate the procurement of paper straws and ensure that paper straws are no longer provided within department buildings. Department components shall take appropriate action to identify and eliminate any portion of policy or guidance documents designed to disfavor plastic straws. Oh, you guys, the Justice Department's long nightmare is over. Today, Pam Bondi took time out of her busy schedule of vanquishing plastic straw discrimination to welcome the president to the Justice Department, making sure to point out to him the most important decor, the picture of him, after which Trump gave a long, discursive, rambling, angry speech. That was only the third time it had ever been used in American history. It had been used in the War of 1812. It had been used in World War I. And it had been used for Japanese internment in World War II. Last night, we started to see headlines like this one at the Wall Street Journal, quote, Trump to invoke seldom used wartime law from 1798. Or this one from CBS News. Professor says Trump's plan to invoke Alien Enemies Act of 1798 sidesteps immigration laws. And then inevitably, because of the history of that law, we started to see last night headlines like this from the ABC affiliate in San Diego, in this case. Japanese Americans react to Trump's plan to invoke Alien Enemies Act. And then this morning, we got the news that Senator Alan Simpson of Wyoming died today in Cody, Wyoming, where he was from. He was 93 years old. President Donald Trump gave a speech today at the U.S. Justice Department, which itself is a rare thing for a president to do. In that speech, he was expected. White House sources had made clear to lots of reporters that President Trump was expected to announce at that speech that he is going to invoke the Japanese internment law. He is going to invoke the Alien Enemies Act of 1798, which, again, has only ever been used 3 times before in our country and always in wartime. And the last time we used it, men like Norm Mineta and Alan Simpson and freaking Ronald Reagan ended up moving the nation to apologize for it, to call it a stain on our national honor, and not only to formally apologize, but to pay reparations for what we have done. Trump wants to do it again, according to multiple White House sources in speaking with multiple reporters at multiple news agencies. That said, Trump didn't announce it at the Justice Department at his speech today. And he might have meant to. Who knows? His speech went completely off the rails. He started giving what sounded like orders to Justice Department officials in the room that they should go after a government watchdog group, Crew, that has brought lawsuits against his administration. The Justice Department should act against them somehow and for something. He started to say that the Justice Department should go after CNN and should go after MSNBC and should go after a whole big list of people he sees as his enemies. So his speech, who knows how much of that was written and how much of it was just him being moved in the moment. He got so wound up about telling the Justice Department individually to go after his enemies today that maybe he forgot the part about let's rerun Japanese internment. But presumably that's coming. I'm assuming that it'll come in some midnight or 4 a.m. announcement or some misspelled all capital letters Truth Social post or something. So this is a person who has a job at a federal scientific agency. Donald Trump has a new high-tech tool, a fancy new website that is assigned to this person a new place to work. And the new place to work, this person has a choice, can either be a rehab or the house of someone who this person doesn't know. Space Match. I bet it has an X in it somewhere. Space Match. These guys are so tech savvy, right? They're so efficient. You know, taxes are due in a month. Taxes are due April 15th. This week, Donald Trump, in his infinite wisdom, told people who work at the IRS that they should show up to work at buildings for which there are no desks for them. Quote, they have people in conference rooms, cafeterias, and even some closets. A Q&A handout was given to IRS employees. It included this question: how should I store my laptop and accessories at the end of the day if I don't have a permanent desk? The answer, quote, employees should secure their laptops and equipment in secure locations, such as via cable lock to a designated storage area, locker, or permanent furniture fixture. This is what they're telling the IRS to do. Buy a cable lock, like for your bike, and then like lock your laptop to a credenza. Or maybe you can find a really heavy potted plant. See if you can find a pillar. And then you can lock your laptop to that. All your stuff, you just lock your stuff to that. Hopefully everything's got like hooks. That's how Donald Trump is running the IRS, the agency that collects all the funds that run the federal government. That's how he's running the agency that is supposed to process hundreds of millions of tax returns that are due in 1 month. Do you think you're going to get your refund this year? We are keeping a close eye tonight on what is going on at the IRS, even with all the probationary employees ordered reinstated today. The Washington Post broke the news today that Trump intends now to fire another 18,000 people from the IRS. He wants them gone by May 15th. There also appears to be a lot of concern about one particular firing that just happened there. They just fired the top lawyer at the IRS. That is reportedly ringing some major alarm bells by people who know how that agency works. So we will be keeping eyes on the IRS.
So Donald Trump is the opposite of even a generally awful president, right? Even some of the bad presidents have shied away from America's dark history. The good presidents, or at least the not bad presidents, have tried to make amends, have made apologies, and sometimes, hopefully more than apologies, actual concrete reparations and reforms to the communities affected. It hasn't been done in nearly enough cases. There's still injustice. There's still justice denied to African Americans, to indigenous people in the United States, and so many others. But despite that, there was, at times a recognition. But what Donald is doing, and this is what Maddow exposed, is that Donald is looking at these dark moments in American history, like Japanese internment, FDR's black mark on his good record as president, and said, yeah, I want to use the law that made that possible. I want to effectively do what they did in the 1940s, but to a different group of people, and that's a good thing. And no one's really talking about it with that history in mind. This is one of the things I love about Maddow. She has a PhD like I do. I believe hers is in politics more than history. But I do like that you can clearly tell she's got that advanced, social sciences, humanities education, because she's very good at bringing in the history. Like, Donald is, in some ways, an aberration in American history. Like, he is not normal. But when he is normal, he acts like the worst elements in American history. Like, when he's normal, it's like, oh yeah, like that monster Andrew Jackson, or the slavers, or the genocidaires on the American frontier. If Trump is like any former American leaders, it's the most evil men doing the most evil thing from the country's history. And Trump is proud of being evil.